Welcome to Amplify and the first Q&A of this online festival. We're delighted this evening to have with us Thor Klein, the director of The Adventures of a Mathematician, the producer, Lena Vurma, and actor, Philippe Tlokinski. So, welcome everybody. I think Philip is still, Philip is pointed. Excellent.
I'm here. I got it.
Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
I always think the interesting place to start is the obvious place to start is what drew you, Thor, to the project. You wrote the script and you came across Stanislav Ulam's book, Adventures of a Mathematician, etc.
Yes, I came across when I was about 13 years old. I found this book in the library in my hometown in Germany about the Institute of Advanced Study. The book was called Who's Got Einstein's Office? And it had all these characters in the book. And I was really fascinated by them because they were essentially driving fast cars, throwing parties, and just having a good time. And I thought, if being a mathematician means that kind of lifestyle, I want to be a mathematician. So for most of the time throughout my teenage years, I wanted to become a mathematician myself. But I was never really good at mathematics, actually. But I lied to myself. I convinced myself that I'm a late riser and that it will improve. But when I was about 16 years old, I was sitting next to a guy in school, and he was clearly talented. And so suddenly it became obvious to me that I was not talented at all, which was very traumatic for me. And at the same time, I was really lucky to have, because I had a literature teacher, and he made me aware that I might be maybe more interested in the stories of these people than the actual math, even though the ideas behind the math always interested me. And so I kept reading about it and was always interested in these topics. And when I was in film school, I wanted to do a film about Einstein and his best friend Kurt Gödel, also a very famous...
Oh my God, you're talking about one of my heroes.
And,
Einstein's a hero, but Kurt Gödel is the hero for me.
Yeah, he's an incredible guy, and he's as you know, he's a little bit of a Woody Allen-like character in a way. And it was a very warm friendship between Einstein and Gödel. But with Einstein, it's a bit like with the Beatles. You know, I couldn't find the right approach to really capture it. And so, because he's such a pop cultural icon in a way, and I couldn't find the right approach to the story. And then one day I came across Stan's book, Adventures of a Mathematician, which also had in the center this special friendship between Johnny and Stan. And I knew all these characters, as I mentioned before, and so I thought this is exactly the kind of that's the story I would like to tell about these people. And so I asked my producer Lena whether it would be possible to option the book, and then she took it from there, as they say.
Well, I think you ended up on the right path. Mathematicians peak at the age of about 28, but filmmakers can go on well into their 70s and 80s. So you made the right choice there, I think. I mean, I did study maths, and it is a wonderful subject, but it is like the fastest gun in the West. Every time you meet another mathematician, you realize they're better than you are. And you're never as good as you need to be. So I moved across into the film world quite quickly. I made my excuses and left. But I still think it's a fascinating area. It's a fascinating subject. And the thing that excited me when I did my degree was suddenly realizing people actually did maths, that it wasn't some sort of biblical thing that was handed down. And that became quite exciting to me. So to actually see the lives of mathematicians being portrayed is really interesting. But you've got a huge thing to deal with there. You've got both the Manhattan Project and you've got Stanislav Ulam. And you try to keep a balance between the two, I think. I mean, putting the script together must have been quite complicated.
Yes, and I mean, I'm drawn to... I'm not afraid of complexity. I like this, and this is a highly, as you pointed out, it's a highly complex point in time where a lot of things came together apart from the mathematics. And I did a lot of research. I basically followed Stan from where he was born in former Polish city of Lviv, which is nowadays Lviv and is in the Ukraine, and went basically through the East Coast and the West Coast and talked to a lot of time witnesses to get an idea also, you know, what kind of people, I mean, apart from the math, but what kind of impressions they left on their peers in these days. And I was very fortunate to be able to talk to a few of really extraordinary people who were at that point still alive, like for example Freeman Dyson.
Yeah, he died quite recently.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I also his son George was my scientific advisor in the film, George Dyson, because his book Turing's Cathedral was a really great inspiration to me during the researches.
Right.
Yeah, and so all these subjects came together, and it took a while to get it to a shape that also was that I could translate into images, essentially.
Yeah. So you obviously had several decisions to make with regard to the production. One, you could have shot in America, totally in English with English actors, although that might have been expensive and it would have betrayed some. So, I mean, can you talk through some of those ideas and Lena, how you went about solving some of those issues?
Yeah, I mean, what I can say before I hand over to Lena is that for me it was always important, or in general it is important when you deal with these kind of subjects, that you stay true to the natural languages and the tongues of these people, and the fact that they spoke English with each other in reality made it for me very accessible. I could not have dealt with, for example, there's this by David Lean did this film
Passage to India?
No. The Russian film
Dr. Zhivago.
Dr. Zhivago, where essentially everybody they speak with his British accent, and even though he's an amazing, a great filmmaker, it doesn't feel real. This film feels almost a little bit a little bit kitschy because of the way they talk, and this was something that was for me clear from the beginning. But
yeah, I mean, from a production point, of course, I set it up as mainly, well, a European production, and it's very difficult to co-produce with the US. So from the beginning, because it is the story of Stanislav Ulam, who was a Jewish-Polish mathematician, it was very important for me to find a Polish partner, and that happened very early on. So in 2015, actually, when we started to develop the story together, Thor and I met Joanna Szymanska from Ship's Boy, who's the Polish co-producer, and right from the beginning, we started this project together, and found very late in the process, like 5 months before shoot, also British partner, Mirror Productions, who helped us to kind of push the project over the finish line, so we would be able to shoot in 2018 in fall. So as you can see, it's like 5 years from basically, I mean, since he's 13, of course, he was thinking about that, but like literally 5 years from optioning the autobiography to now to the release. And so we had to be very clever how to put together the money to be able to shoot the US in Europe. So what we decided is we shot 90% in Germany and Poland, and pretended to be in the US. We rebuilt Los Alamos on an old little
military, a Russian airfield, a former
Russian airfield outside Berlin, for example. And we also shot in Łódź, in a city in Poland, and basically just for like the big landscapes, we had a small service production in the US. So yeah, it was crazy, from like switching like the light switches so they looked American to the windows. We kind of had to look at all these details to make it real.
Good. We're going to open up for questions for people who are watching. They can connect to us through Twitter or through chat on the Eventive platform. But if we move in now as to how you got the star that is Philippe Tlokinski into the film, because I've looked at your credits, Philip, and you've made quite a few feature films, but you seem to be a star of Polish TV as well.
Well, I started my journey in France because I'm born in France, and I started with theater, and I came like 8 years ago in Poland, and it started here in Poland, indeed, on TV. So this gave me a bit of popularity here, which is a thing that I lacked when I was in France. But I started also another chapter in the acting, in my acting practice, is the contact with the camera, and because stage is a good school, but the camera is something different. So yeah, and I made my debut with Walpurgis Night with Marcin Bortkiewicz, then another movie with Pasikowski. I think you might find it on Netflix with the English title, The Fighter of the Uprising, or something like that. It's called The Courier.
I did see earlier on, you can actually watch it on Amazon Prime for £1.99.
Oh, okay.
Immediately after this, people can go and watch it on Amazon Prime.
Okay, and directly after the Courier, after this Fighter of the Uprising, if I remember correctly, the English title, I did the Mathematician, Adventures of a Mathematician. So I was very lucky to do like 3 movies in a row.
And was an essential part of the job that you spoke good English?
Again, sorry, I didn't hear your question.
Part of the role was that you spoke good English as well.
Well, I guess it was essential. Yes.
Yeah. So, I mean,
I mean, always when we were talking about the casting the scientists, actually, what was very important to Thor was that they actually look like they can have deep thoughts and look like scientists and mathematicians, and so that it's believable that they actually say these lines. That was even more important than the perfect English, I would say.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, of course, you need to be in command of the language, more or less, for sure. But I think you can, if you have the right actress or the right actor, you can make these things work. It does not have to be 100% spot on. You can, if they're good, it's not a problem to make this work.
And Philippe was very good.
And Philippe was
thank you. But the thing about the languages that is funny in Adventures of a Mathematician is that I mean, Thor would probably agree with us. You were trying to find an actor that is speaking Polish, because you were trying to find a Polish mathematician, and then the English part was, in my case, was, I mean, I was trying always to find something. I was trying to find a more Slavic accent, more American Slavic. I mean, I was literally trying to destroy my the way I speak English, because I was sounding like too good for an immigrant that just came to America. So the process was actually to destroy a bit my English during the movie.
I had certain references in my head about the way I knew the voice of Stan because I found this fantastic archive in the US, the American Philosophical Society in Philadelphia, where they had actual recordings of Stan. So I knew his accent, and I compared it a little bit to, there's this writer Jerzy Kosinski. He's a Polish writer who became very famous in the US. And he had
the film based on The Painted Bird has just been released this summer in the UK.
Yeah, exactly. And he had also this way of the same kind of accent, essentially. Yeah, and it's always, as Philip said, the thing is that the biggest danger in a way is that you make these characters sound like caricatures, you know. That's this is the crucial thing, and that's also why for me it was very important to rehearse, to have time to rehearse, and to get also the actors and the actresses getting comfortable with these people, because also what is really hard for the actors and the actors is that these people grew up in a very different time, and they had a very different upbringing. These were people who grew up in the Belle Epoque, essentially. So they were mostly upper middle class or upper class. So they had a very good education. They were educated in a broad sense, a very humanistic approach. And so there's a certain, as you saw in the film, there's a certain way of moving, of talking, of interacting with each other, which the actors and actors need to explore, and that was very crucial for me to give them the space and the time to understand this, rather than just throwing them into a situation and they can just react with what they know from their everyday life.
Yeah. One of the things I really appreciated was the fact that you don't fall into that trap with real characters from history, where somebody says, "Oh, meet Johnny von Neumann," and you allow people to find out who these people are as it goes along. So if you know the subject, then you can recognize Edward Teller and stuff like that. But you never fall into that trap, where I've seen some absolutely dreadful historical films where they play that game of introducing people, and that takes away from the naturalism of it, I think.
My inspiration in that sense comes a little bit from literature. I like very much writers like Don DeLillo or Norman Mailer, who deal with historic personalities in their work. But they treat the audience in a sense that they know the audience. I'm talking about literature now. That the audience is willing to find that out. If you don't know who this specific character is, then if you decide to commit to a book or to a certain story, then you are also very often willing to dig up little pieces that you are basically missing. And that was a little bit my idea for the film, that because it is such a rich subject, you cannot explain everything or break it down to a level where you really introduce them in a way that you explain and all the time. You have to trust the audience a little bit in that sense. That was
I think it's true. I think it's frustrating when you watch films and everything's just laid on a plate, and then it becomes very crude and clunky. We've got a question that's come through from Tanya, who says, was there a part of Stan Ulam's life that you would like to have filmed that didn't actually make it into the film?
I mean, yes. There is a time afterwards when these people, Stan had this idea at some point for this spaceship. I'm mentioning this in the later part of the film. It's Project Orion, essentially, and they actually made this. They worked on this project for a while, almost all of them, and this is a very exciting thing, because it was on the crossroads. The fascinating thing is this idea would have worked, but the Americans had to make a decision whether to follow the approach, the classic approach with the rockets, and go the more or less the route where they would know, okay, this somehow works, or they go for this very advanced project following people like Stan, Freeman Dyson, Edward Teller into something where they had no idea where this would lead to. And they did not, because there was Sputnik and there was a certain pressure, a political pressure, they decided to pursue the other technology. And but I think this is a great. This would have been a great time to visit. But that's the film, as you say.
And I think also, I mean, there were so many different drafts of the screenplay, and we had so much more characters in it, and we kind of had to get rid of so many characters, like Enrico Fermi, for example. Or also, I mean, early on, we kind of had a scene where Stan was still in Woof, and how he kind of had his friends there, but we basically then had to decide, okay, no, we can only kind of focus on this part of the story, because otherwise it would have been just like an epic, even more epic story, I guess.
And now that I'm thinking of it, there was at one point in one draft, there was a scene that I always really liked. It was because Stan and the others, they like to play tennis, even in Los Alamos. And there was a scene I had written where they would play tennis with Enrico Fermi and a group of people. And that would have been fun to shoot, for sure, and to make it into a scene.
Philip, how did you approach the character? Did you do lots of research? Did you find out about Stanislav a lot more?
Well, of course, a lot of reading at the beginning. I think Thor would agree upon that. That reading books about the story and about the character is essential. I found, of course, I could mention Adventures of a Mathematician, but I found another book, a Polish one. I just don't want to miss the title. It's Mariusz Urbanek, Genialny. It's called The Geniuses, about the Lvov School of Mathematics. And I really wanted to understand where he comes from and where what he left behind him, and all the things that Thor and Lena just mentioned, that they wanted to shoot the Polish part of the story. I mean, I think it's there anyway. He's mentioning Banach, I guess 2 times, if I remember correctly, in the movie, and it just became obvious to me at a certain moment that the movie is, of course, about the bomb. It's of course about mathematics. It's of course about Stanislav Ulam, and of course the common enemy, because you need a villain in the movie. It's the bomb. So it's all about. It's obvious, and actors are tools to tell a story. But I just asked myself, what would be this value that I want to bring, this emotional value that I want to bring to the movie. And I just realized that the movie is about friendship, and that's what Stanislav Ulam left behind him, because it would be very tempting to play a crazy original mathematician that is thinking out of the box. He's a genius, and I mean, those characters are beautiful to approach, but I just realized that there is something very simple to treat in this movie, and it's the friendship that he's finding with Johnny, and I'm very happy to see that besides of the bomb, besides of this historical aspect of the movie, we managed with Fabian Kocheński to dig a bit this subject, and Thor, of course, directed us in this direction. And I have also to mention Giles Foreman, which was our acting coach from London. So he helped us also to read the script in this direction, because you can easily miss it when you read it for the first time, and you think that it's a crazy scientist and he's a genius, but actually you don't have really to play this. There are more important things, like the human aspect of the character was essential.
Yeah, most mathematicians I've met are quite human. 1 or 2 weren't, but most of them are quite human. So. But we've got a question from Agnes, who asks, Lena, I imagine as an independent producer, you had to make many, many changes and compromises along the way to get this film over the line. What helped you to preserve the quality of the film, nevertheless, and keep it at such a high standard?
I think it's always important to kind of keep the vision of the film and what you really want to tell, and what is kind of the core of this story you want to protect, and then basically you just have to fight for that. And sometimes it's not easy, because you maybe feel like this team member is not helping you to achieve this, so you have to let someone go, which is never an easy undertaking. Or also in post-production, sometimes you just kind of have to fly out to London and see like, okay, what's going on? How can we make sure that we have maybe one ADR session more and it's costing us more, but it is for the good of the film. So I think it's really, but sometimes it's also, of course, to say, for example, we had in the beginning quite a lot of VFX shots. And during the shoot, we just knew, okay, it's going to be too expensive to keep them all. So we had to discuss with Thor, the director, and Tudor Vladimir Panduru, who was our cinematographer, who made this fantastic cinematography, basically, to decide, okay, in which direction can we shoot? And we just have like 2 green screens, but we cannot shoot in another direction, and we just have to put a car there or some blankets or something. So we kind of can get around and not spend the money. So it's really also in independent film a lot of, because you don't have the measures of just throwing money at the problem. You just have to decide, okay, where do I have to place the money and where can we be creative and go around this?
I think that's the exciting thing about filmmaking, is the problem solving. And I just always in admiration of people who solve problems in filmmaking, and so cheaply. But it is what it's about. We've got a last question, which sort of follows on from that, which is, Thor, as director, what specific choices did you make to bring the atmosphere of the era to life in your film?
The most important one was one that I made early on for myself, that I did not want to show the bomb, the actual bomb, the mushroom, because for me it was clear that this, again, it's an element of pop culture almost. Everybody knows the mushroom cloud, and in a way it becomes a little bit if I would have shown it, it would have, in my opinion, would have taken a little bit away from the intensity, because I was very, very intrigued, and still am when I think of the film, about this almost, it's a very metaphorical situation. There are these people lost in the desert, far from home, building this weapon, and all they can rely on dealing with their own situation in Europe is as Philip rightfully said, is the friendship, the bond they have with each other. So this, to put all the intensity, everything, the whole moral dilemma, put into these relationships, and make them really something so intense that you can feel it when you're in the room with them. That was basically my idea from the directorial point of view.
So we're winding up now. So Philip, have you got any last comments you'd like to make about the film?
Well, about the film, about maybe the fact that we are still waiting for the people to see it. Actually, the pandemic just is slowing down the process, but we are very happy to be here and taste a bit of festival atmosphere by talking with you and with the people. I hope someone is hearing us, because here we don't have any feedback.
Yeah. No, it's really difficult. There are questions coming through, but it is really strange. Like, we're just privately, electronically talking between each other, and that's it. It's very
you can send us questions anytime over Facebook or Instagram. Yeah. We have accounts of Adventures of a Mathematician, and please spread the word. The film is still being shown at Amplify, so yeah, it would be great to have your friends and family watch the film as well.
Great. And so, final comment. What are you going to do next, apart from promote this film?
Apart from, I'm working on my next film currently.
Yeah.
Which we plan to shoot next year, and it will also be a very international endeavor. We will shoot in Germany and Mexico, and yeah, I mean, it will be not get less exciting than it was this time.
Another adventure.
Well, good luck. I really hope, I mean, obviously for all sorts of reasons, that the climate changes rapidly and you get the chance to make the film and get back out on the festival circuit and meet a lot of people. And thank you so much for making a film that makes mathematicians look human. It doesn't happen very often, so much appreciated. So Philip, Thor, and Lena, thank you very much for joining us for this Q&A at Amplify.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.